What if the very walls holding you back aren't outside of you, but within you? What if the prison keeping you from abundance is built from your own guilt, your fears, and the hidden beliefs you've been carrying all your life? Most people spend their whole lives chasing money, working harder, trying to outsmart the system. Yet, they never stop to ask, what if I am the one blocking my own wealth? The enemy isn't always lack of opportunity. Sometimes, it's the quiet voice inside whispering, "You don't deserve this." But here's the truth. Those inner blocks aren't permanent. They are illusion stories passed down, ingrained, and repeated until they feel real. And the moment you recognize them, you unlock the power to rewrite your relationship with money forever. This is not just about money. This is about freedom. Freedom from guilt that shames you for wanting more. Freedom from fears that shrink your world and stop you from stepping into your potential. Freedom from beliefs that tell you you're not worthy of wealth, love, or expansion. In this journey, we will peel back the layers of those inner barriers. We will confront guilt, transform fear, and dissolve limiting beliefs that have been silently shaping your destiny. And as we move through each chapter, you will discover that true prosperity isn't something to chase, it's something to claim. By clearing the inner blocks that once held you captive, so take a deep breath, open your heart, because the path to wealth begins not in the outer world, but in the inner landscape of your mind and spirit. Chapter 1. Understanding Inner Blocks. Before we can overcome anything, we must first understand it. Imagine you're trying to unlock a door, but you're using the wrong key. No matter how much force you use, the door will never open. That's what happens when we try to achieve wealth without addressing the invisible locks inside of USD inner blocks. So what exactly are inner blocks? They are not physical obstacles, they are psychological patterns, emotional scars, and unconscious beliefs that quietly shape how we interact with money. They whisper things like, "Money is evil. Rich people are greedy. I'll never be good enough to earn more." These thoughts may seem harmless, but over time, they form invisible barriers that dictate your choices, limit your potential, and sabotage your success. Think of it this way. If your mind is the soil and money is the seed, then inner blocks are the weeds left unchecked. They choke out the very growth you've been working for. You may hustle harder, take on more projects, or push yourself to the limit. But if the soil is poisoned by guilt, fear, or shame, the harvest will always fall short. Now, inner blocks often come from places we don't even realize. Childhood lessons, cultural narratives, religious teachings, or even personal failures that etched deep marks on our self-worth. A parent might have said, "Money doesn't grow on trees." A teacher might have told you, "People like us can't be rich." Maybe you saw conflict at home around money, and unconsciously linked wealth to pain. These moments live on in your subconscious, silently shaping your financial reality. And here's the important truth. Your outer wealth will never outgrow your inner beliefs. If you believe money is dangerous, you'll push it away. If you believe you're not worthy, you'll unconsciously sabotage opportunities. But if you begin to rewrite these beliefs, your reality will shift with them. So, understanding inner blocks is not about blaming the past, it's about bringing awareness to the present, because once you see the weeds, you can pull them out. Once you see the chains, you can break them as we move forward. We'll begin to shine a light on specific blocks, the guilt of wanting more, the fear of judgment, the belief that money corrupts, and learn how to release them. But first, pause for a moment. Ask yourself, what are the stories I've been telling myself about money? Whose voices are shaping my financial reality? And are those voices truly mine? Because the journey to wealth begins not with numbers in your bank account, but with clarity in your mind and liberation in your spirit. Chapter 2. The Weight of Guilt Around Money. Let's talk about one of the heaviest inner blocks, guilt. For so many people, the simple desire to be wealthy feels wrong. It feels selfish. It feels greedy, and because of that guilt, they sabotage themselves before they ever get started. But where does this guilt come from? Often, it begins with the messages we receive early in life. Maybe you were told, "Don't be greedy," or you heard, "Good people should focus on helping others, not chasing money." Perhaps your culture painted wealth as something unspiritual, unkind, or unworthy of a decent person. Over time, those words take root, and suddenly wanting more feels like betraying your values. Here's the paradox. You want to provide for your family, to give generously, to live in freedom. And yet, the moment you think about wanting wealth, that inner voice whispers, "Who do you think you are?" Or isn't it selfish to want more when others have less? But let's pause. Is it truly selfish to want more? If the more allows you to serve more, create more, give more? Is it greedy to grow if growth makes you a greater blessing to the world? The guilt you feel is not a sign of greed, a sign of conditioning. Guilt has a way of shrinking our vision. It convinces us that we should play small. It tells us, just be satisfied with what you have. But here's the truth. Being satisfied and desiring more are not opposites. Gratitude is the foundation. Growth is the expansion. You can be grateful for what you have today and still call in more for tomorrow. Think of a candle flame when it lights another candle. It doesn't lose its brightness. It expands the light. That's what true wealth does. By freeing yourself from guilt, you give yourself permission to expand, and in expanding, you bring more light to others. So how do we begin to release this guilt? It starts with reframing the story. Instead of saying, "I feel guilty for wanting wealth," say, "I choose to see wealth as a tool for good." Instead of believing, "Wanting more makes me selfish," affirm, "Wanting more allows me to serve at a higher level." Remember, guilt is not proof that you're doing something wrong. It's proof that you've been carrying beliefs that no longer serve you. And here's the most important insight. You do not need to apologize for desiring abundance. You are not here to hide your gifts or shrink your potential. You are here to live fully, to expand and to contribute. Wealth is simply the fuel for that mission. So, the next time guilt creeps in, ask yourself, what if my desire for more is not a burden, but a calling? Because guilt dissolves the moment you realize that wanting wealth isn't about taking from the world, it's about having more to give. Chapter 3. The Silent Grip of Fear. There is a particular kind of silence that isn't peaceful at all. It's the quiet tightening in your chest just before you avoid a call. The soft excuse that keeps you from sending a proposal. The small, convincing voice that says, "Not now, maybe later." That silence is fear doing its work, soft, patient, and very persuasive. Fear is a primitive intelligence. It protected our ancestors from immediate danger, tigers, cliffs, sudden storms. Today, it still tries to protect us, except the threats are different. Rejection, failure, loss, ridicule. The problem is that fear often misreads the modern world. It treats possibility as threat, and so it keeps us small in the mistaken service of safety. Let's map the territory. The silent grip of fear shows up in many disguises. Fear of loss, the worry that if you ask for more, change careers, or invest, you will lose what you already have. Fear of judgment, the dread of being seen, criticized, or misunderstood when you step into visibility. Fear of failure, the paralysis that comes from imagining the worst-case scenario and deciding not to try at all. Fear of success? Yes, it's real. It's the anxiety that success will change relationships, expectations, or identity. Fear is stealthy because it dresses itself as reason. You should wait, clients aren't ready. You don't know enough yet. Those sentences look like caution, but they are actually sabotage in disguise. Consider the story of Lena. She had a talent for design and a small but loyal client list. Every time a larger opportunity arrived, a chance to pitch to a bigger company, her chest tightened. She'd find a reason not to apply. The timing wasn't right, She felt underprepared. She told herself she needed more experience. Years passed. Lena's portfolio stayed lovely but small. When she finally examined what was happening, it wasn't market forces holding her back. It was fear, the steady, surgical removal of possibility. The moment she began to treat fear as a signal, not a verdict, she took one small risk. She submitted a proposal to a mid-sized client. They said yes. Her confidence incrementally rebuilt, and with each small yes from the world, fear's grip loosened. So how does fear sabotage? It creates rules you never agreed to. It narrows your options, and it trains you to prefer certainty over growth. It turns curiosity into caution, momentum into stasis. Worse, fear compounds with time. Every avoided risk becomes proof to your mind. That risk equals danger, making the next step feel even harder. But fear can be understood, and when understood, it can be managed. The first move is to name it. Say aloud, "This is fear," the way you might name an ache. Naming creates a distance between you and the feeling. It turns a tidal wave into a weather report. Once named, fear becomes a messenger, not a judge. Here are practical tools to loosen that grip. Small, repeatable actions that change how you react. Breathe and anchor. When fear rises, pause, inhale deeply for 4 counts, hold for 4, exhale for 6. This simple pattern calms the nervous system and creates space to choose. Fear journal. Keep a short log. What triggered the fear? What stories it told you? And what you did instead? After 2 weeks, patterns emerge and the stories lose authority. Tiny exposure steps. Don't leap into the deep end. Test the waters. Send one email you've been avoiding. Post a short piece of content. Price a service slightly higher for one client. Small exposures build tolerance and evidence. Flip the question. Instead of asking, "What if I fail?" ask, "What if this succeeds and changes everything for the better?" Let possibility compete with fear. Design safety nets. Practical planning reduces catastrophic imagination. What's your fallback if a plan doesn't work? Having a simple contingency softens fear's alarms. Ritual of celebration. After each brave act, celebrate briefly, genuinely. This trains the brain to associate action with reward, not punishment. There is another important distinction: adaptive. Fear warns you of real danger and invites preparation. Maladaptive fear blocks growth by magnifying unlikely outcomes. Your job is not to kill fear, but to learn to listen to, follow the helpful parts, and ignore the fearful fantasies. One of the most powerful reframes is to treat fear as the compass pointing to where you must grow. If something scares you, perhaps it is exactly where your expansion waits. That doesn't mean ignoring caution. It means using courage to cross the threshold anyway. As fear loosens, something else becomes visible: the beliefs underneath it. Fear is rarely the original cause. Often it's a symptom. When you're afraid of losing money, the deeper story may be, "I'm not worthy." When you fear judgment, the root may be, "I must be perfect." That's why the next chapter is essential. Fear and beliefs are entwined. To dismantle the prison, you must examine and rewire the operating system beneath the fear, the limiting beliefs that run on autopilot. So, as you breathe, as you journal, and as you take one small, courageous step today, know this: courage is built in increments. Fear will still visit, but each tiny victory teaches your body and soul a new grammar. Action, not avoidance. Choice, not capitulation. In the next chapter, we will step deeper into the hidden software that runs your life, the prison of limiting beliefs. We will learn how those quietly repeated ideas became habits of the heart, and will uncover the practical work to reprogram them so fear no longer finds such fertile ground. Chapter 4. The Prison of Limiting Beliefs. Imagine walking through life inside a room with invisible walls. You don't see them, but you feel them every time you try to stretch further. Each time you attempt to step out, something within whispers, "You can't, you're not ready, this is not for you." Those whispers are the bars of your unseen prison, your limiting beliefs. Limiting beliefs are not facts. They are conclusions drawn from old wounds, misinterpretations, or the careless words of others that hardened into silent laws. The tragedy is not that these beliefs exist. The tragedy is that we mistake them for truth. Where do these beliefs come from? They are rarely born overnight. Many trace back to childhood. Perhaps you heard your parents say, "Money doesn't grow on trees," or "People like us don't get rich." Maybe a teacher once laughed at your dream and you quietly stored that laughter as evidence against yourself. Over time, these moments accumulate, like stones in a bag, until you carry them everywhere without question. Limiting beliefs also come from cultural narratives. Wealth corrupts. Spiritual people should not care about money. Success means selfishness. These phrases, repeated enough, begin to feel like moral codes without realizing it. You absorb them as unquestionable commandments. Limiting beliefs manifest in three ways. Identity beliefs: I am not enough. I am not the kind of person who can succeed. Capability beliefs: I don't have what it takes. Others are smarter, stronger, luckier. Worldview beliefs: opportunities are scarce. The world is rigged. No matter what I do, I will lose. Each of these is a wall, and the higher the walls, the smaller your life becomes. Take Daniel, brilliant mind, compassionate heart, but deep down, he carried the belief, I am bad with money. It came from watching his parents struggle with debt, hearing them say, we'll never get ahead as an adult. Every time Daniel earned more, he unconsciously found ways to spend or lose it, not because he wanted to, but because his mind was faithful to the belief. To honor the inner law, he kept proving it true. The turning point came when Daniel challenged the belief itself. He asked, who told me this? Whose voice is this really? As he traced it back, he realized it wasn't his voice. At all, it was an inheritance of fear. That realization cracked the wall, slowly, with new choices and affirmations. He rewrote his identity. I am learning. I am capable of becoming wise with money. Step by step, his finances shifted. The prison door had always been unlocked. He simply needed to push it open. How to recognize your own limiting beliefs. You know you've hit a belief when you hear yourself saying, that's just the way it is. People like me can't do that. I'll never, or I can't ever, notice the absolutes. They are red flags. Life is rarely absolute. Your beliefs are. Another way, pay attention to areas of repeated frustration. Where you keep hitting the same ceiling, chances are a limiting belief is holding it in place. Tools to break the prison walls. Interrogation: write down a belief. Ask, is this absolutely true? Who benefits from me believing this? What evidence do I have against it? Reframe. Replace I am bad with money with I am learning new skills with money. Replacement must feel believable, not like a hollow mantra. Evidence gathering: prove the new belief with action. However small, save $1, negotiate one bill. Each act is a crack in the wall. Borrowed belief. Spend time around people who hold empowering beliefs. Their mindset rubs off, expanding what feels possible. Visualization. See yourself acting. With the new belief, the brain rehearses as if real, weakening old neural pathways and strengthening new ones. The spiritual dimension. Why does this matter spiritually? Because limiting beliefs shrink not only your material world, but your soul's expression. You were designed to expand, to create, to experience abundance in every sense. Each limiting belief is like a chain around that divine impulse to break. The chains is not arrogance, it is obedience to the larger purpose you carry. As we see, guilt and fear often hide inside these beliefs, feeding them like oxygen to fire. But here lies the paradox. The very guilt and fear that once imprisoned you can also be transformed into fuel. They are not your enemies, they are raw energy waiting to be transmuted. And that is where we go next, in the next chapter. We will take the heavy stone of guilt and discover how it can become the very cornerstone of your strength. Chapter 5. Transforming guilt into empowerment. Think of guilt like a heavy stone carried in your pocket. At first, it seems small, hardly noticeable. But as the days turn into years, the weight grows unbearable. Many of us carry guilt around: money guilt for wanting more, guilt for having more than others, guilt for mistakes we've made in the past, left unexamined. This guilt becomes a quiet thief, robbing us of joy, energy, and the courage to step into abundance. But here is the truth. Guilt is not the end of your story. Guilt is a messenger. And if you listen closely, it can be transformed into empowerment. The nature of guilt. Guilt often arises from 3 roots. Past actions: I made bad financial decisions, therefore I'm not trustworthy with money. Comparisons: if I succeed, I'll leave others behind. Who am I to have more? Inherited beliefs: good people should sacrifice. Wanting wealth makes me greedy. Each of these thoughts seems convincing, but they all share one assumption: that guilt means you are unworthy. Yet guilt, at its best, is simply a signal. It says, something here needs healing. From weight to wisdom, when you pause and sit with guilt, you discover its hidden gift. It shows you where your values lie. If you feel guilty about spending recklessly, it means you value responsibility. If you feel guilty for wanting success, it means you value fairness. The problem is not the value, it's the distorted conclusion you've attached to it. Guilt, when reframed, becomes guidance. Instead of saying, I am guilty, therefore I am bad, you begin to say, I feel guilt, therefore I care, and caring can be powerful fuel. Consider Maya. She grew up hearing her family struggle, often repeating, we don't need much. It's selfish to want more. When Maya began her business, and it flourished, she felt overwhelming guilt every time she succeeded. She thought of her parents and felt she was betraying them. For years, this guilt kept her small, until one day, she asked herself, what if my success is not a betrayal, but a tribute? What if I honor them by breaking the cycle? That shift was profound. She transformed guilt into a mission. To succeed, not in spite of her family, but for them, for their sacrifices. For the opportunities they never had, her guilt became empowerment, and empowerment became action. How to transform guilt into empowerment. Acknowledge it. Don't bury guilt. Name it. Write down. I feel guilty about naming it. Disarms it. Trace it back. Ask, where did this guilt come from? Is it my voice or someone else's? Often you'll find it's inherited, not original. Extract the value. What value does this guilt point to? Responsibility, kindness, fairness. Keep the value. Release the distortion. Reframe it. Instead of, I'm guilty for wanting wealth, say, I want wealth to serve, to create, to contribute. Act on it. Guilt without action festers. But when you turn guilt into purpose-driven steps, it transforms into strength. From a spiritual lens, guilt is often tied to shame. But while shame says, I am unworthy, guilt says, I did something that needs correction. One imprisons, the other instructs. The sacred work is to release shame. Honor guilt's lesson and use it as a compass toward alignment. When you carry guilt as a teacher, not a tyrant, you discover that what once felt like chains is actually raw material for resilience. And here lies the paradox. The same is true of fear. Just as guilt can become empowerment, fear can become fuel. Fear signals where growth waits. Fear shows where possibility trembles just beyond your reach. So in next chapter, we will explore how the energy that once held you back can ignite the fire to move forward. Chapter 6. Turning fear into fuel. Fear, even the word, carries a weight. It tightens the chest, quickens the breath, and freezes the steps we know we need to take when it comes to money. Fear shows up in many disguises: fear of failure, fear of success, fear of judgment, fear of losing it all. Most people believe fear is the enemy. But what if fear is actually an invitation? What if it is not a stop sign, but a signal pointing you directly toward your next level of growth? Fear is not random. It arises when you are standing at the edge of expansion. Every great step forward, launching a business, asking for a raise, investing in yourself, will trigger fear. That's not because you're weak, but because your brain is wired for survival. The mistake is believing that fear means don't move. In truth, fear often means move carefully. But move. Imagine fear as a compass needle. Wherever it points, you'll often find the very breakthrough you've been seeking. Afraid of asking for fair pay. That's where your self-worth is waiting to be claimed. Afraid of investing. That's where trust in yourself, in the flow of life, needs to grow. Afraid of standing out. That's where your authentic power longs to be expressed. Fear doesn't appear to block you. It appears to guide you, the shift from obstacle to energy. Think about fire. Left uncontrolled, fire destroys. But harnessed, fire cooks your food, warms your home, and lights the dark. Fear works the same way. When unexamined, it burns dreams to ashes, but when transformed, it becomes pure energy, the fuel that propels you forward. Consider Daniel, a gifted artist who longed to sell his work but was paralyzed by fear. What if no one buys? What if I'm not good enough? For years, he hid his canvases in the attic. One day, a mentor asked him, if fear wasn't here, what would you do? His answer was immediate. I'd share my art with the world. The mentor smiled and said, then do it afraid. Fear doesn't leave first, you move first. Daniel began sharing his work, heart pounding with every step. At first, fear screamed louder, but the more he painted, the more he posted, the more he sold. The quieter fear became, and soon, what once held him hostage became the very fire driving his success. How to turn fear into fuel. Name the fear, write it down. I am afraid of. Clarity is the first step. Toward mastery, question it, ask, is this fear protecting me from real danger or just from discomfort? Most fears are the latter. Reframe it. Instead of saying, I'm scared, so I shouldn't, say, I'm scared, so I must. Take micro actions. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's movement in spite of fear. Start small. Build momentum. Celebrate every step. Each time you move through fear, acknowledge it. This rewires your brain to associate fear with growth, the spiritual perspective. Spiritually, fear is often described as false evidence appearing real. It's the shadow of your own potential. When you learn to walk with fear hand in hand, you transform it from an enemy into an ally. The deeper truth is this: fear shows up not to stop you, but to shape you. It stretches your courage, expands your faith, and deepens your trust in life's abundance. Now that we've turned fear into fuel, the next great obstacle awaits: limiting beliefs. They are the invisible walls built from old stories, conditioning, and inherited doubts. In Chapter 7, we will step into the inner workshop of the mind and learn how to dismantle these walls, replacing them with empowering truths that unlock your path to abundance. Chapter 7. Rewiring limiting beliefs. Beliefs are the architects of reality. Every choice you make, every risk you take, refuse to take is shaped by the silent assumptions you carry about yourself, about money, and about what is possible. Some beliefs empower, others imprison. And the most dangerous prisons are not built of stone and bars, but of thoughts that whisper, you can't, you're not worthy. Money is evil. Wealth is for them, not you. Limiting beliefs often live in the shadows of the subconscious. You may not even realize you have them. But you feel their weight when you hesitate to ask for what you deserve, when you sabotage opportunities, or when you tell yourself, it's too late for me. It's like trying to run with invisible chains tied around your ankles. You may not see them, but you know they're theirs, slowing you down. Most limiting beliefs aren't even yours. They're inherited. Maybe you grew up hearing, money doesn't grow on trees, or rich people are greedy. Or perhaps you watched your parents struggle and silently concluded, abundance is not for me. Without realizing it, you accepted those statements as truth and built your life within the small box they created. Neuroscience teaches us that beliefs are like neural pathways, well-worn trails in the brain. The more often you think a thought, the deeper the trail becomes, until it feels automatic. The good news: trails can be rewired. You can blaze new paths, and with repetition, they become the highways of new possibility. The process of rewiring, awareness, the first step is noticing the belief. Catch yourself in the moment. You think, I'll never be rich. Awareness is power. Questioning, ask, is this absolutely true? Who told me this? What evidence do I have to the contrary? Replacement: choose a new belief that expands instead of contracts. Replace money is the root of all evil. With money as a tool for good in my hands. Repetition: speak it, write it, visualize it. Every time you practice, you're carving the new pathway deeper. Embodiment: act as if the new belief is already yours. If you believe abundance flows, then take steps that align with abundance. Generosity, investment, courage, a story of transformation. Maria was raised to believe that wealth was sinful. Every time she made extra money, she found a way to lose it: overspending, underpricing her services, or giving it away carelessly, subconsciously. She believed keeping money meant betraying her values. One day she decided to reframe. She chose the belief, the more I earn, the more good I can do. She repeated it daily, wrote it in her journal, and began to see herself not as a taker, but as a channel for impact. Within a year, her business doubled. But more importantly, her sense of freedom grew. By rewiring her belief, she rewired her destiny. The spiritual perspective. Limiting beliefs are illusions that cloud the light of who you really are. Spiritually, abundance is your birthright. When you peel away false stories, you return to truth that you are worthy, capable, and connected to an infinite source. Rewiring isn't just mental work, it's soul work. Every time you replace a limiting thought with an empowering one, you step closer to living the divine truth of abundance. As we move forward, imagine what life looks like when guilt is transformed, fear becomes fuel, and beliefs are rewired. The natural result is freedom, the ability to live beyond the blocks that once defined you. And that is where we go next. The last chapter, a journey into what it truly means to walk in abundance, with clarity, courage, and joy. Chapter 8. Living Beyond Blocks. Imagine for a moment, standing on the other side of your old limits. The guilt is no longer heavy on your shoulders. The fear no longer whispers in your ear. The beliefs that once caged you have dissolved, like mist. Under the morning sun, you are lighter, clearer, stronger. This is what it feels like to live beyond blocks, freedom as a state of being. Living beyond blocks is not about having a perfect life where nothing goes wrong. Challenges will still come, but your relationship to those challenges changes. Instead of guilt, you feel responsibility and empowerment. Instead of fear, you feel curiosity and courage. Instead of limiting beliefs, you stand rooted in truth and possibility. Freedom is not the absence of problems. Freedom is the presence of inner strength. When you live beyond blocks, you step into a new identity. You are no longer the person defined by struggle or scarcity. You are the person who chooses abundance with every breath. You see money as energy, not as a threat. You see opportunities everywhere, not just in certain doors. You see yourself as capable, worthy, and deserving. And this identity doesn't just affect your finances, it touches your health, your relationships, your sense of purpose. Abundance is holistic. It colors every corner of your life. Living beyond blocks is never just about you. Your transformation creates ripples in the lives of others. A parent who shifts their beliefs teaches their children that wealth and worthiness are natural. An entrepreneur who overcomes fear inspires a team to dream bigger. A leader who lives in abundance models generosity and vision for a whole community. When one person breaks free, the world benefits. The practices that sustain freedom, abundance is a state you cultivate daily. It's not a one-time achievement, it's a rhythm, a practice, a way of being. Here are a few daily practices to sustain it. Gratitude. Anchor yourself in what is already abundant in your life. Visioning. Keep your mind fixed on what you are creating, not what you fear. Generosity. Give, even in small ways. It reminds you that you already have more than enough. Aligned action. Take bold steps that reflect your new identity. Small, consistent moves create massive results. Inner dialogue. Guard your self-talk. Keep your words aligned with truth, possibility, and love. A glimpse of abundance. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine. You wake up in the morning feeling excited for the day. You handle money with confidence and clarity. You take opportunities that once scared you, knowing you have the strength to face them. You move through life not as a victim of old patterns, but as a creator of new realities. This is living beyond blocks. Not someday, but today. Every choice, every thought, every step is an invitation to practice abundance now. And so, the journey brings us here. You have faced the shadows of guilt, fear, and limiting beliefs. You've learned to transform, rewire, and step beyond. Now it's time to take the final step, to embody abundance with courage, to declare that you are ready, and to step into a life that reflects your true worth. Final reminder, stepping into abundance with courage. We have walked a long journey together, from uncovering the hidden guilt to facing the silent grip of fear, from dismantling the prison of limiting beliefs to transforming those shadows into light. Now, you stand at the threshold of something greater, a life beyond blocks. Abundance is not something reserved for the chosen few. It is not locked away behind gates you cannot enter. It is here, now, waiting for your courage. Courage to release the stories that no longer serve you. Courage to take action, even when your knees shake. Courage to believe that you are worthy of living fully, deeply, abundantly. Wealth is not just numbers in a bank account. It is not the car you drive or the house you live in. Wealth is the peace you feel when you know you are free. It is the joy of giving without fear. It is the clarity of living a purpose that outlives you. When you step into abundance, money becomes a servant, not a master. It becomes a tool of expression, a channel for impact, a way to build a legacy of love, your legacy of light. Remember this. When you choose abundance, you do not walk alone. Your choice uplifts your family, inspires your community, and strengthens the collective. Every courageous step you take becomes part of your legacy. And the world desperately needs more people who live without fear, without guilt, without the weight of false beliefs. The world needs people who embody freedom. People like you. Final words. The door is open. So here we are, at the final note of this journey, but this is not the end. It is a beginning. The door to abundance has always been open, all along. The only lock was inside you. You now hold the key. Step through, step into abundance with courage. Live free, live bold, live with the knowing that you were never meant to live small. You were meant to shine, and when you shine, the whole world becomes brighter. This is your moment. This is your call. Step into abundance, fully, courageously, and without looking back. Thank you for spending this moment with Awaken Light Audio. If something today touched your heart or opened your mind, don't keep it to yourself. Share your thoughts in the comments. What spoke to you most? Tell us about your journey, your questions, your breakthroughs, and let us know what you'd love to hear next. Subscribe to stay connected. And if this message could uplift someone you care about, send it their way, because light grows when it's shared. Until next time, stay present, stay awakened, and keep becoming who you're meant to be.